And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from Emmanuel de Jucos. What's the question? Who would win a fight? Akuma versus Garou from One Punch Man. Now, I actually had to make sure I knew everything about Garou, or at least try to find everything I could about Garou, because I do actually keep up a little. I don't really read One Punch Man, but I do keep up with what's going on with One Punch Man, because I do like One Punch Man. I never got around to reading it. And I'm pretty well versed with Akuma. Akuma obviously is one of the big primary antagonists in the Street Fighter universe, in the Street Fighter game series. The only one who may arguably rival him is like M. Bison, and we know Ryu ultimately overcame him. But he's the top dog, more or less, in the Street Fighter universe. As such, he is a beast. He is a master level martial artist, constantly going around to challenge individuals to test his skills. He is, even in just base form, he's capable of blowing up islands, even shattering, not continents, but close to it. Moving at speeds well beyond normal human capabilities, including speed of sound. Not light speed, but then you upgrade him later on to his Oni form, and you could definitely make that argument. He's capable of using his own version of the Hadouken, which basically is just a giant fireball of death. And we can't forget that he knows the I can never pronounce it right. The Atsui no Hata, or the Raging Demon, which is literally designed to destroy one's soul. He's also got an upgrade form called Oni, where he basically turns gray. I think, actually, Akuma Oni. Let me just get a picture of that for my own clarification. Akuma Oni. Akuma Oni. There we go. Yeah, okay, sorry. His hair gets blue. His skin gets blue. His hair is like electric blue. This version is arguably planetary, and he's extremely powerful. Like he can easily blow up like a continent or something like that if he really wanted to. He is a malice fighter, but with a code of honor nonetheless. Like, as long as he feels consider you a worthy opponent, he will fight you with honor. He won't fight dirty. He doesn't use dirty tactics usually. Satsu no Hado. That's what it's called. I don't know why I call it the Atsui no Hado, but it's Satsu no Hado, allowing him to control his actions. So yeah, Akuma is just one of those guys who's just naturally badass. Now Garou is a former pupil of Blast, and he was one of his best pupils. His whole introduction is as a villain who hates heroes and is a master martial artist. Therefore, he is skilled, masterful in martial arts combat. He's a lot more precise than, say, Akuma is. For example, if Akuma is a baseball bat with spikes and maybe a little bit of gunpowder on there to blow up upon contact, Garou is more of a combat knife in your hand, and you punch with the combat knife. A lot more precise, a lot more precision in his fighting style, but he can also, hit hard too. Garou, though, his greatest ability, and he has a lot of, different types of, different levels of strength throughout the series, but especially when he starts out. But his best strength is his accelerated development. He grows after every fight, and even during fights, to adapt to his opponent. Now, when he had, every time he went up against Saitama, it didn't matter because because Saitama was just way too far above him. But his ability to adapt, his ability to observe and imitate. He is actually very skilled at imitating other individuals' techniques, movements, and copying them and making it out and using them to a devastating degree. He knows, God knows how many martial arts techniques, including using techniques which that can create like gusts of wind. Let's see, I'm just looking at a bunch of the techniques. He knows Tiger's Fang, Purgatory Abyss. He can literally absorb a martial arts technique through battle, which is an insane ability. He also has an indomitable will. He also has a massive appetite because clearly he has to have a high level of calorie intake. But that is Garou before monstrification and before God's influence. After the fact, this guy was going so hard, and he basically being pushed to his limits in a fight against an A-class team and B-class heroes, following Genos Bang and blah, blah, blah. After being killed in the fight with War Ripper and Bug Guard, his power explosively increased to his and his clothing merged with his body, causing him to slowly transform into what can only be described until only his face remained untouched. Sorry. As a result, basically, he kind of he more or less became a monster. And at that point, he was growing an explosive rate, capable of splitting giant monsters in half, augmenting his abilities way beyond that. He has psychic resistance, acid resistance, heat resistance. He was now capable of messing around with like the plant. Like he was actually affecting gravitational fields with just his physical power alone. He was actually moving continental plates and raising a continent through shockwaves produced by extreme Fajin. His speed was clearly now hitting way into the subsonic, if not near light speed, if not beyond light speed levels. Because he exchanged countless blows with platinum sperm, which, that was a name, in the sky in only 1.3 milliseconds, which means that is well beyond light speed at that point. He can create after images, his durability is way more augmented. Enhanced time and ability. And then that's not even considering the influence of God. A form Garou assumes after receiving powers from God, whoever this God being actually is, mind you. We don't quite know what this is. He then basically turned into cosmic fear mode Garou. This is the famous scene most recently where him and Saitama clashed. They had it was Blast who diverted the attack from the planet. It went out into space and they annihilated star systems. They literally annihilated star systems with the combined efforts of their attack. Now, granted, a lot of people I think misread into that. That's not Saitama's full power. First of all, it's not his full power, though he's probably capable of that. That was a combined attack, because half of that was probably if not a little less, was coming from Garou. So both of them together were capable of obliterating massive dozens upon dozens, maybe hundreds of star systems in one clash with each other. Then you're talking about a comparable durability to go with it, speed and reflexes that are well into the light speed category at this point. He can survive in a vacuum, supernatural vision, universal energy projection, and cosmic knowledge. Cosmic irradiation, he's actually emitting deadly levels of radiation just by existing. He's kind of like Godzilla at that point. He has an overwhelming presence. And also has power mimicry because he copied the portal creation of Blast, meaning he's capable of making space or dimensional portals to go through different spaces, and gravity manipulation. And then he also has a time travel ability. He can manipulate particles when it's by on a subatomic level and force them to behave like antiparticles to allow for time travel. First, this power as his most powerful technique, albeit to himself, also stated that he is not successful in using it for time leap. User imagines their own inner universe and manipulates this particle and antiparticle generated by pairs of the user's intense cosmic rays. That's also... Oh, and you should also know that he has a nuclear fission technique where Garou is capable of energy manipulation in conjunction with his incredible fast, powerful punches to generate nuclear freaking explosions with his punches and producing large mushroom clouds with the technique. Gamma radiation bursts, a large giant burst of gamma radiation. If the attack, and Saitama, it was noted by Saitama that even if the attack merely grazed the earth, it would have been bad news, prompting him to prevent that from happening. Meaning this thing, even just by touching the planet, if it wouldn't destroy the planet, it probably would have made it uninhabitable. Then there is a technique called Shaki, a secret martial arts technique that borrows power from nature and imitating the movements of living things. Okay, whatever. And he did this to go into mode Saitama. It basically mimics Saitama. So let me be very clear here. If this is God Fear Mode Garou or Cosmic Fear Mode Garou, Akuma is royally effed. They're not even a raging demon's going to save this guy because he's not going to be able to touch this guy unless Garou is so arrogant, which he kind of is, to just take the technique. And then, let's be honest, at that level of power, there's no freaking guarantee he'd be able to kill this guy's soul because literally a god, whatever this thing is, influenced Garou at this point. So he could even be resistant to that. So there is no way on God's green earth, Jupiter's whatever colored moons, that Akuma could beat Garou straight out in a fight if he's at that level of power. Just no way in utter hell. I would even argue it'd be debatable if he could even beat the Monstrification Garou. But if this fight were to just be early, like the strongest version of the human Garou we have, like earlier series Garou. Okay, that is a difference. That's a completely different scenario now because now this is still within the limitations of a human. So they would both be duking it out. I do think Akuma's the more physically powerful of the two. Outright, before the Monstrification, mind you, but outright, I think he's more the physical powerful of the two. Durability is a tough one. The games make him very weak on durability. The series, the specials, the lore, that counteracts that, though. So I don't know necessarily how durable Akuma would be compared to Garou. I do know, for example, that Akuma probably couldn't take like a shot from Saitama. Let me rephrase that. If it's like the weak restrained punch that Saitama had him, then yeah, Akuma could probably take that. But in terms of an actual punch, no. To be fair, Garou couldn't survive an actual punch from Saitama either, in human form. I might say it's a wash for durability, but in terms of overall skill, it's the skill that's the really unique. First off, Garou doesn't have the ability to fire like energy projectiles, at least at this point. But watching and copying Akuma, could he develop that? I'm guessing if he's able to harness his ki. But the real thing here is martial arts. That's really what's going to be the deciding fact here. Because Garou as a human is not surviving the Raging Demon. He's just not. Even an indomitable will. Because Ryo has an indomitable will. What was it? Goki, was his master's name. Had an indomitable will, and they survived. But they survived through mitigating circumstances. If Garou had clashed with Ryu and Kabi's ability to use the power of nothingness, then sure, he could survive the Raging Demon. But this is going to come down to A, can Akuma get the Raging Demon off? And B, who is more skilled in martial arts? So Garou has clearly copied more martial arts. He's probably got more variety with his martial arts. The difference, I think, is Akuma, who, by the way, I don't know how old Akuma actually is. He's the brother of. He was the brother of Goki, right? Height. They give a height and a weight, but do they give an age for this guy? Yeah. I've never actually thought about that. But how old is Akuma? So let's just type in Akuma's age and see what happens. Point being, though, what I'm trying to get. Okay, what's going on here? There we go. Akuma age. Let's go with that. Akuma. Okay, no, his age is unknown. No one knows how old Akuma actually is. We can tell, though, that he's a guy that is most likely, if you just look at Akuma. I mean, this is just one version of Akuma. I honestly kind of like the lion mane bearded Akuma. That's kind of, I like that Akuma look a lot. But he's most likely, and this is, I'm just spitballing here. He's definitely not in his 20s. He's not in his 20s. 100% he's not in his 20s. I don't even think he's in his 30s. He's at earliest in his late 40s, probably his 50s, maybe even into his 60s. And I say this, you might think, well, he doesn't look like that. Martial arts, if you really look at martial arts, they tend to have a really good, they tend to age very well because they take good care of themselves. And it's about, accessing other points of, accessing your body's capabilities, all that. So Akuma, at his oldest, is probably, I think, in his 60s, youngest in his late 40s. But that, and Garou, I need to get Garou's age. Garou has progressed extremely quickly in such a short time, at only the age of 18. So while he does have a lot more technique under his belt, like a lot more techniques, period, under his belt, Akuma has been doing this at the earliest for 30 some odd years more. No, actually 40 some, no, yeah, 30 some odd years more than he has. If not more, going on to 40 to 50 years. He's been doing this near half a century at this guy has at his oldest. So he has just got decades more actual combat experience. That's why he kept losing though. That's why he kept losing the Bang so many times. Now it's due to the fact that even though he ultimately did beat Bang, but that's because Bang was just older and more experienced. So it's one of the things where you're going up against youth, vigor, and adaptability versus physicality, experience, and while it's more limited number of techniques, still the ability to react and change your fighting style if you need to. Both these guys would be serious in the fight. They would both be probably clashing for a while. Akuma would probably not take him 100% seriously at first, but he also wouldn't be like just taking it easy on him. He'd be feeling him out like a martial artist would, and ultimately he would take note of Garou's abilities. Now Garou would be adapting throughout the fight, so as Akuma is starting to pressure him, Garou would eventually counteract him, but Akuma easily can, because Akuma also still has the Oni form to go into. If he needs to, he could increase his power to that, but I don't think he really would need to. I think he would ultimately take down Garou, because even though Garou can adapt to techniques, he has to foresee the technique and experience the technique prior. And if he can survive it, great. But he's not surviving a raging demon, and so ultimately he would probably be taken down by Akuma after a pretty good to a drawn out fight. Akuma would recognize he's worth the raging demon. Oh, he's worth it. And yeah. Now I will bring up. Do I think that Oni Akuma could take on the monsterification version of Garou? Because we have an actual idea of his physical power, including the ability like plates affect gravity. That's not a level of power we know that Akuma has. Because Akuma doesn't affect gravitational fields just by flexing his power. He just doesn't have that level of power. We know he can though blow away large chunks of a country if he had to with his full power. So I would say that he'd be a hero who probably could push the monstrified, let's call it, Garou, but who would not be able to beat him unless he got hit with the Raging Demon. This would be before God's influence. So yeah, I think Akuma, push come to shove, could beat monstrified Garou, but that would be a seriously long fight, and Akuma would be on the back foot through for the majority of it. It's just that he has a technique that could probably guarantee him the win. Oh god. And as I said, there's no way in God's green earth, Jupiter's colored moons, that Akuma in any form he's ever been displayed in could beat Cosmic Fear level Garou. There's just no way. I'll be honest, it would be difficult for even that's a character who Garou at that point is a level of power that even like higher level Dragon Ball Z characters would struggle with. Because I fully believe that Saitama could not beat any of the like Vegeta, Goku, any of those guys. And I don't think Garou could either, but Garou's got so many abilities under his belt at that point, including time travel, that he could even give those guys a good fight. So yeah, Akuma is not a Dragon Ball Z level fighter. No, I mean at least not a universal or cosmic or celestial fighter. But anyway, my money 2 out of 3 times would be Akuma, but let me be very clear right now. Garou at full power, as we've seen in the comics, would wreck any version of him. So I think it's a relatively solid but clean fight and clean win for Akuma against human-based Garou. It is a complete curb stomp for Garou at his full power in Cosmic Fear mode. And it is a very hard-fought, a little bit of luck involved win for Akuma against monstrified Garou. But this is just my opinion. What do you think of the Constellation? This would be a fight I'd love to see death battle. This would be a good death battle fight. Okay, let me rephrase that. Akuma versus the first two stages of Garou would be a good death battle fight. The other one, no. At that point, you're just stopping. I'm wondering, though, if we'll ever see a Garou on death battle. We've seen Akuma twice now, and he's won one, lost one. What it is. But I wonder when we'll eventually see Garou on the fight. We've only ever seen two one-punch characters at this point, and only one of them won, and it wasn't Saitama. So, I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you folks next time. Have a good one.